I'm Lizzy.
And I'm Izzy, and we need help.
Each week we stumble through a new book, method, or concept that brings us one step closer to being our best self.
Yes, we make fun of ourselves.
And others.
But mostly just ourselves. So here's to not taking self-help quite so seriously.
Welcome to We Need Help. I'm Lizzy.
And I'm Izzy, and today we are super pleased to have Betsy Opyt with us, who is going to talk about adrenal fatigue. And Lizzy, you can tell us why we have Betsy, why she's talking about adrenal fatigue today.
Well, Betsy was the angel that I went and saw when I was just getting out of that. I was discarded from my narcissist, and I literally was desperate and couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Do you remember that, Betsy?
I do.
It was horrible because I basically went to her with all my results, my blood work, and I said, I can't figure this out because I wasn't in menopause. I wasn't but I was low on testosterone. And Betsy basically named it and gave me a game plan on how to get to a place where I was back to myself. And basically saved my life. I mean, I feel like it because I was in such a state because I had just been under so much stress for so long. Right, Betsy?
Yeah,
I was like,
absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of us go through that and don't realize it. And that's why so many people get misdiagnosed and they're just confused on why their body's responding differently. And so this is great that you're bringing this topic up because I think a lot of women are going to be able to relate to this.
I was thinking about it.
It's like, I think it's really like a lot of women don't realize, or a lot of people don't realize that toxic relationships can cause adrenal fatigue. Like that's one of the things you don't think about. You think about, oh yeah, the mental stress or the emotional stress, but you don't think about the physical stress that you can go through when being in a toxic relationship. So that's super interesting that we're bringing Betsy here. Can you introduce yourself, Betsy? Because you have a real long title. You do a lot of different things.
Right. So my name's Betsy Opyt. I'm based out of Naples, Florida. I've been down here for about 22 years. I began my career as a dietitian. Actually, at the age of 13, I had an interest in nutrition. So this has been my calling my entire life. I've been an advocate for healthy eating, healthy living, healthy lifestyles, stress management, yoga, all of that, for many, many years, and started my own consulting practice. So I am a registered dietitian. I'm also a certified diabetic educator, which means I specialize in metabolic issues. And then I'm also went back for another degree in integrative and functional nutrition specialty. So that's why I'm diving into more root cause issues as to why, people are starting to see inflammation or health issues, instead of just saying, here's a diet plan, which really is to me a Band-Aid approach. It's really diving in deep to the whole body system to figure out what's going wrong. And that's why I was able to help Lizzy out because a lot of the symptoms that she was experiencing, I was like, oh yeah, check. This is adrenal fatigue. I knew right away just because, it's one of those things that aren't really talked about a lot. And a lot of doctors will just dismiss it as, oh, she's just stressed, or, oh, it's just hormones, or, oh, it's just her diet's off, or she's not exercising. She or he, I don't mean to just label it as females, but, this is where I can come in and really take a deeper dive and assessment because I take that time with my clients. I sit down, I listen to them. I don't just ask about what they're eating. I want to know the whole health history. What is your entire lifestyle like? And I pick up on things like stress and, a female's drive to, wear many hats and do it all, and then balance relationships and children and work and their own health. It's a lot. And so we don't realize the stress that we're under because it's a constant fight or flight. And that's where the poor little adrenals, which sit on top of your kidneys, are like, I'm going to try to help you out. We'll produce a little cortisol, a little bit of adrenaline to help get you through it. But when you keep taxing the body system, eventually it's going to say, hey, I give up. And that's what kind of adrenal fatigue is.
Do you think that a lot of people are going through this after COVID?
Absolutely. One of the organs that has taken the biggest brunt, believe it or not, is the liver. The liver is the major detoxifying organ, but it's also the organ that has an emotional center, and it houses fear, anger, hurt, resentment, all of these things that think about what happened during COVID. Everyone was in fear. They were scared. And so
Terrified.
the fastest growing disease right now, above and beyond cancer and heart disease, is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And all of the organ systems are connected. So when you're having issues with the liver, you're having trouble detoxing. When you have trouble detoxing and digesting, because the liver is a big part of producing bile from the gallbladder, it's also connected in with the pancreas. So we're seeing a lot of increase in metabolic issues. So people getting pre-diabetes, diabetes, and this metabolic issue and insulin increase is tied into the adrenals, because when your adrenals are in fatigue, because everyone's been stressed, and life changed for a lot of people financially, emotionally, physically, relationships, a lot of changes have happened there since COVID. The stress level is probably, I think, the highest in the world than we've ever experienced before. So yes, this is definitely taking a big tax on our adrenals, which are tight. The adrenals, which produce cortisol, which is that fight or flight stress response. When cortisol goes up, insulin goes up. So that's where we're starting to see a metabolic. People are gaining weight, especially around the midsection, thinking it could be like hormones or what they're eating. And a lot of it's just due to the stress. Because this is the number one thing I try to let my clients understand when they come in, for weight management, for example, which most people come in for weight management. And then as I dig deeper, I find out what the real issue is, not necessarily calories in versus calories out. But when you are stressed and your adrenals and cortisol and adrenaline, all of that, and insulin go up, you are in a state of fight or flight. So think about it. If you're being chased by a tiger, do you think your body's going to take time to lose weight?
No,
It won't.
It's not getting rid of anything.
So I can blame my weight gain on my partner. Like it's all your fault.
That's all the stress, right?
Because you're stressing me out.
And is there's fight, flight, and is there freeze? Because I remember being frozen.
Yeah,
Like I couldn't do anything.
That's part of a protective response. There's really the sympathetic and parasympathetic state. So there's fight or flight and rest and restore. So when you're trying to rebalance your body, rebalance your hormones, rebalance your appetite, your sleep centers, all of that, to put your body in homeostasis, you have to be in rest and restore. And just think, most people are not getting enough sleep. They're drinking at night, they're eating late night, they're on their electronics. Sleep is the pinnacle foundation of health. Like when I was younger, I used to think it was all exercise and all diet. And I was like, trying to manage those two. And I realized I was putting myself in adrenal fatigue by trying to be too healthy. Does that make sense?
If you're not getting enough sleep, you're in adrenal, you can get into adrenal fatigue.
Yes.
That's, I know a lot of people who only get like 5 or 6 hours of sleep, and everybody knows I talk about it all the time. I protect my sleep like most people protect their children.
Absolutely. Yes. And you have to be diligent about that, because you won't lose weight. You won't let your body come back into a healing mode if you're not sleeping, and you're not getting good sleep, like deep sleep, REM sleep, like that delta theta state of sleep.
Right. And a lot of problems people are having like a Coke or something at night, and then it's messing up your sleep as well.
Yeah.
That's, I preach that
kind of the science of it. Like what happens when you're stressed? So what is the science of how does that affect your liver? Like, this is really interesting to me, because I didn't realize my stress could affect me. Could affect my liver. I don't even think about my liver when I'm stressed. So how does that affect, what is the science of that?
Well, let me just explain how the body works in the stress response. So obviously stress creates cortisol, adrenaline, these are hormones in our body, which are supposed to be a temporary fix. Like when the adrenaline goes up, it's because you're being chased by a tiger. Like, you got to run and get out of the way. But when you keep taxing that center, it fatigues, and every organ tries to help out. So if the adrenals are starting to weaken, well, the thyroid's like, well, I'm going to help out. Well, the thyroid and the liver are connected, and the gut health. Like, every organ system plays a role in trying to create a homeostasis in your body. So why I say sleep and stress management are the two fundamentals for overall health is because, as I mentioned, your body won't restore itself when it's stressed. So a lot of times we go to sleep and we're marinating what's going on, what we're stressed about, or this narcissist who's just getting in your mind and making you crazy, or the busy schedule you have coming up. If you can't quiet that mind when you go to sleep, you're in fight or flight all night. And I know that because I've done that to myself. I've had adrenal fatigue. I've lived through this. I mean, it will decrease your DHEA. You'll be tired, fatigue. It's going to be harder to sleep just because your body's so exhausted because it's running on all cylinders. It's like taking a Ferrari and going 200 miles an hour on the highway and not taking a break to stop and get gas and take care of the maintenance of that. So when you go to sleep at night, what is fascinating is every organ in our body has its own circadian rhythm. This is why it's so important to go to bed and wake up at the same time. Like you said, protect your sleep as if it's the most important thing. Like it's like your financial abundance, but this is your health abundance is what you can bank with your sleep. So like, for example, your liver, we're talking about the liver does its restoration between 2 and 4 a.m. So if you're waking up between 2 and 4 religiously every night, there's something metabolically going on with your liver and pancreas.
Ooh,
You know, like
because I know I call it the witching hour. If you wake it like for a whole year, I woke up at the witching hour. That is so cool.
And so that's part liver health. So when I'm working with my clients and I'm interviewing them and asking these questions, you know, I'm asking them, what time do you wake up during the night? You know, what time are you going to bed? You know, because another interesting system is our digestive system. This is why it's so important not to eat and sleep, because you want a 2-hour fasting window between the last time you eat and when you go to bed, because there's a certain bacteria strain that its only job is to be a street cleaner. So think about at night when the streets are empty, these cleaners come out with the bristles and they're cleaning the street. Well, this bacteria in our gut does the same thing. It goes through the gut walls and it cleans out the junk and tries to make it all nice and clean. So when you wake up in the morning, you're fasted, but your digestive system's clean. So if you're eating before you're going to bed, that bacteria never turns on. It never does its deep cleansing of the colon and the GI tract. So, you know, you're missing out on that. If you're not getting that deep sleep, you're missing out on these other organs, which are trying to repair and heal themselves during the night. And another interesting thing, talking about brain health and preventing dementia and Alzheimer's and whatnot, there's what's called the lymphatic system, which is the system of lymph that goes through our head. And so when we go to bed at night, our brain shrinks by like 30%, just so this fluid can come up and take all the plaque and all the debris and the toxins out of the brain. So that's another important reason, you know, to get a good night's sleep so you can prevent things like dementia and Alzheimer's and foggy brain during the day. So you want a full detox even of the brain.
Wow. That's like, I wish that like everyone knew this. I'm so excited that we're talking about it. When you just brought up the foggy brain, I remember that was one of your major ways of telling that I had adrenal fatigue. What are some of the other symptoms people can like self-diagnose, like, or at least get an idea that they might be suffering with adrenal fatigue?
Yeah.
Brain fog is one.
Oh yeah. Feeling exhausted like midday, like you need another cup of coffee just to keep you going. Not sleeping well, imbalances of hormones. So you might see your testosterone tank, which testosterone is actually a very, very, very important hormone for females, not just men. It's very protective against breast cancer, heart disease, dementia, but it also keeps your lean muscle mass. So as we are, you know, going into perimenopause and menopause, that's one thing, your estrogen drops. So then you're more likely for, you know, bone issues and not having enough muscle to maintain metabolism. So the testosterone helps protect that. Plus, it helps prevent against metabolic issues. So like those prediabetes and weight gain around the stomach. Adrenal fatigue will also tank your DHEA, which is that important like hormone for our overall health and vitality. And then you also might see some changes in your thyroid, like hypothyroid. So that's going to slow metabolism as well. So a lot of times with adrenal fatigue, not only are you feeling tired, fatigue, it's having a hard time getting your body to rest and your mind to unwind and the foggy brain. But you might start to see the weight gain. You might just see loss of muscle. You might see loss of collagen. So you might see your skin changing a little bit. So those are just some of the symptoms. Again, it could be digestive issues, more constipation. I mean, there's a lot of other smaller type of side effects, but I think the biggest one is feeling exhausted.
We are literally, I was going through every single one of those when I came to see you. I remember, and you're like, and I had just had my blood work done and my testosterone was at an alarming low.
Yeah.
And that's it. You were like, and you gave me some there, because I think people are afraid of hormone therapy in any way, because there was, in the 60s, they had really bad hormone that caused cancers and all kinds of stuff, but that's not the way it is now, right?
Right. No, the hormones are much cleaner, much more pure. I'm a big person to say test, don't guess. Don't just go on a hormone replacement or take DHEA, or you want to test to get a baseline to see where you are. I mean, I was in adrenal fatigue as well. I was in a toxic relationship. I pushed myself to the nth degree. I mean, I'm coming from experience as well. And it took me a good year to unwind my body and my mind. I mean, thank goodness I have a very, very disciplined yoga practice, because yoga has been my therapy to help me unwind and untether my mind. But it's also
she didn't say this, but she is literally the best yoga teacher in the world.
Oh, thank you.
She didn't say this. You're incredible.
Thank you. I'm very passionate about it. I love to give people the experience of rest and restore. Like, what does it feel like to just be in your body, not have to be anywhere, do anything, having anyone to ask anything of you, just finding that silence and that peace. And that's really a practice, because I had to constantly practice slowing my mind down, saying no to things, taking things off my plate so I wasn't running ragged, balancing a bunch of things at once, and give myself permission. And a lot of times that's just what we need. We have to give ourselves permission to slow down and take care of ourselves, because we're so used to taking care of others. But as you know, if you don't take care of yourself, then your body begins to take the brunt of it. And that's what, when I work with my clients, I work with them on stress management. I work with them on sleep, on hydration, on good nutrition, on exercise. You have to have everything in balance. And it's just starting with the awareness of checking in every once in a while during the day to just see how you're doing and how you're feeling. Because so many times we swallow those emotions, we hold them in, we want everyone to know, hey, we're resilient, we can handle everything. But, it's okay if you need to take a moment to just rest, to listen to music, to sit in a bubble bath, to cry, to call a friend, to read a book. Like, it's okay to do these self-soothing practices that kind of make you feel whole, because it's the only way you're going to overcome something like adrenal fatigue. There is no magic pill that is going to take care of it. It's self-management of your whole body.
I remember when you said this, you basically, she sat me down and said, you need to get it together, or you're going to, your physical side is going to start to come out and you're going to be in trouble. Like, you basically told me that if you don't start taking care of yourself, you're going to be in big trouble soon.
Yeah.
I remember that. You're like, I was like, okay, I'm going to start. I promise I'm going to take care of myself. And even as you're talking, I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, okay, I need to focus more on hydration. I'm like, is there any way I can move in with you for 28 days?
See, I love that.
Price. What does that cost?
I've always thought about them. I want a big retreat center, where people can come in and just be like, we're taking a week to, unwind and, recharge and just get into these practices. But that's what I do. I'm a coach, so when I work with my clients, I love to, check in on them every week. How are you doing? What goals do we need to set? What are we needing to work on? Where is your stumbling blocks? And I like to meet my clients, in the middle. I'm not extreme by any means. I had this one couple come in and they're like, we're probably going to be your worst couples. We eat out breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We're stressed beyond belief. They're going over all these, it's a shame. They were so shameful of their lifestyle. I go, look, it's okay. We can take it one step at a time. I said, our number one focus right now, let's not work on a restrictive diet, because I don't believe that's going to be helpful. We have to work right now on reducing your stress and learning these simple techniques. I taught them the box breath. Every night before they go to bed, I have them play binaural beats, which is a sound vibration, because vibrational healing can actually take us into a rest and restore state, that parasympathetic, just through music. So just putting music in your house that's very relaxing, binaural beats is what I like to use, and then have them do the box breath before they go to bed. And every time they exhale, it's like taking out the trash. So whatever in the mind has bothered them all day, the stressors or whatever's gone on with work, they exhale it out. So before they go to bed, they've already taken out the garbage. They took the trash out of their mind so they can hopefully get a better state of sleep.
You taught Scarlett that box breath,
So
and
how,
do you know that she uses it every single time she goes into the ring when she's riding?
Really?
Like, she's a
I
big
love
time
it.
rider. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
How common, like Betsy, because you work with a lot of different clients, how common is this adrenal fatigue as a result of being in toxic relationships? Like, do you see it a lot? And how open are people to talking about it?
Well, most people don't even know what adrenal fatigue is. They're experiencing symptoms of it, but have no diagnosis. Most doctors don't say, "Oh, you have adrenal fatigue." I would say nowadays, with everything that's been going on, a lot of people are getting out of toxic relationships. I think there's some big shifts that have happened since COVID. And so they're going through it without realizing the stress is there. And so as I'm, listening to some of their symptoms, I'm then, introducing this concept like, let's start working with the stress. Let's start working with exercise because that's a means of releasing stress. Let's start downshifting things in your life. What can you take off of your plate? What healthy habits can we start introducing in? Because there is a gut-brain connection too. So when people are experiencing anxiety, which you can experience anxiety with adrenal fatigue, stimulating things like caffeine and chocolate and, these energy drinks is the worst thing you can do because it's creating more cortisol. So here, you're tired during the day and all you think is, oh, this another cup of coffee is going to help. Well, actually it's doing quite the opposite. So when I'm working with people on adrenal fatigue, we do need to shift things in the diet, eating more alkaline, healthier, cleaner. So the liver's not having to work so hard to detox. But there's also that gut-brain axis. So if your gut's not healthy and you don't have a healthy microbiome, then you could be craving sweets and sugars, and which is also going to make cortisol and the insulin go up. So the diet will play a role in this. So I do coaching along with good gut health, good liver health. And not just eliminating toxins through the diet, but eliminating emotional toxins. So getting out of these toxic relationships. And also there's a part of healing in that because I've gotten out of my own toxic relationship and realized that it takes two to tango. So I was an enabler in this toxic relationship. I was a codependent. So I started doing my own work myself through my yoga practice, through working with a codependency coach to help me realize those issues that I needed to work on, to put up more boundaries, to do more things for me and not for others, and stop being a people pleaser. And as I like to say in yoga, it's being a human being instead of a human doing. So I had to listen to my own advice and help heal these old, scars and wounds from a toxic relationship, but yet come out of it more of a whole person. So I'm ready to bring in a newer and healthier relationship.
Okay. So I love that. I mean, you have to you got to take responsibility and say, okay, I showed up for this relationship and I was a part of it. And it kind of taking yourself from the victim mentality to the survivor mentality and getting into the driver's seat of your life.
Yeah.
So you're out of this relationship. Let's just say you're out of it. You've had your blood work done. You've realized that you're short on testosterone because of adrenal fatigue. All the signs are there. What do you do now?
Well, I mean, in that case, for an individual who's now listening to this saying, hey, I fit a lot of these, you want to find someone to work with, a hormone doctor who can specialize and help you rebalance your hormones. You want to work with a lifestyle coach or dietitian, a psychologist, whatever it is, a therapist, whoever you need for that accountability. And maybe it's just doing yoga class or just, slowly starting to integrate maybe a few of these little changes that I had suggested. But like I said, you want to test, don't guess. So if, you feel there's adrenal fatigue going on, you might want to have a full CBC panel, checking your thyroid, checking your hemoglobin A1C, checking your cortisol levels, along with having all of the hormones like the testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, DHEA. There's some tests out there called the Dutch test, which specializes in hormones. You don't have to necessarily go to a doctor to order your own hormone panel. You can there are some online sites where you pay probably under $100 and you can have a full hormone panel. And then if you see the numbers are off, then find a hormone specialist to kind of help you rebalance. Well,
and
those.
it's important to go to a hormone specialist for those tests because like their testosterone that they say is normal is so ungodly low
Yes.
So you have to go to somebody who knows about hormones, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, when it comes to your hormones, you don't want to mess that you don't want to mess that up. So you want to go to someone who knows what they're doing, who's looking at we call this optimal lab values, because typical lab values when you go to Quest or LabCorp are just based on the average population, which we know the average American population is not healthy. So those lab ranges aren't what we call optimal ranges. So someone who's a specialist and understands that, they are going to make sure you're in the healthy direction and taking the right amount for you, because you also don't want to overtake hormones either, especially things like estrogen. If you become estrogen dominant, then you put yourself at risk of cancers. And that's why the old estrogen therapy was questionable, because they were finding more risk of breast cancer. But, if you're managing it, you're making sure your gut is healthy and your liver is healthy, because those are the two that help you process those estrogens. So you got to make sure that's on point if you are doing any type of hormone therapy.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Betsy. How can people get a hold of you? Like in Naples, where can we go see you? I'm like going to fly over and come.
I know.
Well, I do. Most of my work now is through Zoom. As you can see, digital is so easy. So I can work with really anyone all around the U.S. or the world. But you can just reach out to me. My website is healthyconcepts with an S, consulting.com, or you can just email me at betsy@healthyconceptsconsulting.com.
And I'm going to tell you, she saved
so
my
much,
life.
Betsy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love it.
much.
Thank you so much. We love you.
We appreciate you.
too.
You're amazing.
Aw, thank you so much. Well, I hope this advice has helped someone out there. And I think this is just something very important, that we need to empower ourselves to just take care of our health. It's our most important investment we'll ever make.
I love it. We couldn't agree more. And we will see you soon.
Amen to that. Amen.
Okay, sounds great.
Thanks for joining us this week on We Need Help, the podcast, the duct tape of self-help.
Please visit our website, weneedhelpthepodcast.com, where you can find links to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and all the others, so you'll never miss a show.
You'll also find links to the books we've reviewed and our amazing store.
If you enjoy this podcast, go right now, because if you're anything like us, you'll never do it later. Like and share our page and episodes on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or just tell a friend about the show. That would help us out too.
Also, feel free to let us know what you need help with, and we'll try to cover it in a future episode. You can also find us on Instagram at weneedhelp_the podcast.
Thank you for listening. We love you. See you next Tuesday.